Hello again, Year 6. We find ourselves back with some home learning. Hopefully it won't be for too long, but we're going to do the very best we can to make the best of it. Just before I go forward with the first of your online learning lessons, just a couple of bits to say. We have sent out packs to you. Those packs will contain things that you'll need for these English lessons. They're in the plastic see-through wallet that you need. Each time you need something from that pack, I will make it really clear to you what it is that you need. But mostly for the big read stuff, it will just be the first 5 chapters of Who Let the Gods Out, which is the new text that we're looking at this term. For today, you actually aren't going to need it very much at all, because I'm going to be focusing in on the front cover and just the very, very first paragraph of that first chapter. Ideally, don't read ahead. But obviously, I can't stop you. If you get too into it and you decide you really want to, it won't be the end of the world. But ideally, read only what I tell you to read each day. I will, like I say, pinpoint exactly which piece from that plastic wallet you need. And then that should help you be able to see things better. As ever, just like we've done before, though, there will be pictures and everything you need will be on the screen. But it's nice to have that paper copy so you can highlight and edit, annotate, and hopefully see it a lot better. Right then, the only other thing to do is wish you a happy new year and welcome you back into school, those of you that are doing this from in school, and hopefully see the rest of you back in very, very soon. Happy 2021. Let's hope it gets a little bit better than it's managing to start. So, as I say, big read then. We're looking at this half term, or this term, should I say, right the way up to Easter. We're looking at a book by Maz Evans called Who Let the Gods Out. It's a book all about our new theme, and our new theme is ancient Greece. As you probably guessed from, if you're Cyprus class, you'll have guessed from the display that you saw me put up before Christmas, and if not, you might have guessed just from the pictures on the front cover. So, speaking about that front cover, the first thing I'd like you to do, and it's pictured up there on the screen for you, nice and big, I'd like you to have a look at that front cover and write down a short single paragraph prediction in your home learning books, or if you're in school, this can be done in your English books. But looking at that front cover, in your big read books if you're at school, looking at that front cover, I want you to write a short prediction. It can be 20 words, 30 words, just a short paragraph predicting what you think that book is going to be about. Bear in mind, I've already told you that what we're looking at this term is ancient Greece. So that's a little bit of a clue there. You can also gain some clues from the pictures and the title itself. When you have done that, start this video up again. So pause it in a moment. And when you've done, start the video up again. And I'll talk you through what your next activity is. Speak to you in a moment. Okay. Hopefully you're now back with me and you've just had a good think about this front page. So let's have a look then at some of the things, some of the questions maybe we could ask ourselves based on what we can see on that front cover. You might have already made some predictions based around some of these questions and what you think, but here are the things that stood out to me. So what does the title tell us about the text? Who let the gods out? Well, presumably there's going to be some kind of gods involved, ancient Greek gods. You might know a little bit about them already. Who let the gods out? So what are they being let out from? What does that mean? What does the pattern on the letters maybe suggest? All things you can be having a think about. What type/genre of text is this going to be? And how do you think you know? So remember, there's all those different genres, but there's also different types of text. It could be a diary, it could be a newspaper report, it could be a debate, it could be a non-chronological report, it could be a story, it could be a narrative, it could be a poem. So what type? And then within that, what genre? If you think it is a poem, is it a narrative poem? Is it a nonsense poem? If you think it's a story, is it an adventure? Is it an action? Is it a romance? Is it a comedy? All sorts of different things. So that's something you can have a think about based on what you can see on that front cover. What does the boy's t-shirt suggest? It's an interesting one. By the boy, I mean the silhouetted figure in the very center. Dark t-shirt, or is that just because he's in silhouette? Question mark on it. Interesting. What might that suggest to you? What might it suggest based on where he stood? What other characters are around him? Lots of interesting things to think about there. And then who or what are the characters around the boy, and how do you think you know? Do you think you can recognize any of them already and say who they might be based on your prior knowledge, your existing knowledge of ancient Greece? So what I'd like you to do, I'd like you to take another 5 minutes or so to now look back at your prediction and extend and expand and improve that prediction based on those 4 questions around the outside of the text. So have a bit of a look at that and think to yourself what you think you know already and what the answers to those questions might be. Remember, this is a prediction. So this is not right or wrong. It's based on what you can see, what you think, and what you can infer based on that front page. Just like you did last time, go and have a go at writing that out and improving that and expanding that based on those 4 questions. When you've done that, come back to the video, click play once again, and I'll move on to tell you about the next part of your first big read activity. Speak to you again in a moment. Okay, so I'll walk then for the main lesson. That was sort of like a starter, a warm-up to get us back into the swing of things after 2 weeks away and eating all of the Christmas food. So our Walt, what we're learning to do, we're learning to draw on existing knowledge to make evidence-based predictions. So existing knowledge, that is knowledge we already have or that is already given to us, to make evidence-based predictions. Well, evidence-based predictions is making predictions given the evidence that we've got. So looking at what evidence we definitely have and making predictions based on that evidence. What I'm looking for then, what a good piece of work will be when I see it, and remember, you must send these in to me so that I can then go through, give you some feedback. And also, this is part of our sequence of learning. So you must be doing this so that when you're back in school soon, you've got this knowledge, this work already to go back in books, to put up on displays, and to act as that evidence that we need to collect from you for year 6. Cyprus, you've heard me talking about it loads. Banyan, I'm sure Miss Barrett has talked about it loads as well, but we need the evidence so that we can then make our decision about where you stand at the end of this year. So what I'm looking for what a good piece of work will have, is for you to show an understanding of genre based on your prior knowledge. We'll talk a bit about genre in a moment, but remember, genre are all those different types of text, different types of narrative, different types of story. I'm looking for you asking questions of that evidence and using information to ensure a thorough and comprehensive understanding. Thorough means complete, not just missing certain bits of information out and not just having gaps in your understanding. And comprehensive understanding means about the same thing, making sure it is a complete and thorough understanding. And then finally, I'm looking for you making predictions based on your prior knowledge to show me that you can do that. So let's look a little bit more about what that's going to look like then. So we've made some evidence-based predictions already about the text overall, just looking at the front cover and what we think the book might be about. And remember, they are predictions, so we can use all the evidence and we can make really evidence-based predictions, but they still are predictions. I'll only be telling you they're right or wrong based on whether I think you've got enough evidence to support your prediction. So we're going to start by looking at the very, very first sentence, and just the first sentence on its own. Now, the first sentence in this book is an interesting one. The first sentence is, "It began on a Friday, as strange things often do." So what can we ask about that sentence then? What can we start wondering about? Because remember, to make predictions and to make inferences, it's all about wondering and thinking what we know and what we can infer. So what do we already learn then from this first sentence? And what questions would we already have? So I know you've not got very much there, and hopefully nobody's read ahead. So what I want you to do, I want you to now write down 3 questions that you've got already just from that first sentence. I'd also then like you to write down 3 things you already know. Now that one's going to be trickier. The 3 questions might be easy, but I then want you to write down 3 things you already know as well. Now these can be incredibly basic, and I'll go over exactly how basic in a moment. So that's your first little task. I'd like you to write down 3 questions you have based on that first sentence, and then I'd like you to write down 3 things you already know. When you've written those things down, I'd like you to start this video again. You're going to pause the video in a moment. I'd like you to start this video again, and we'll go over what I think we already know and what questions we already have based on that first sentence. Speak to you again in a moment. Okay, so we're going to have a look now at my personal analysis of that first sentence. And this is important because your main task today is going to be doing this sort of analysis on further sentences in that first paragraph. So you need to see the amount of detail I expect. And I will be coming back to you. If you send me something that I know is not in enough detail and I know you've been being a bit lazy, just like if we were in class, I will be sending it back to you saying, that's not enough detail. Have another go. Look in more detail. What else can you ask? What else can you work out? What else can you infer? So there's that sentence, that first sentence. It began on a Friday, as strange things often do. Now, I know straight away that it's on a Friday. So that's one thing I know. But what is it? It began on a Friday. So the pronoun it, we've not been introduced to this pronoun, and we teach you all the time, don't we? You mustn't include a pronoun until you've introduced it, until we know who that pronoun is referring to or what that pronoun is referring to. It began on a Friday. So already I have my first question and my first statement. I know it's a Friday. That's one thing I know. But a question I have is, what is the it that began on a Friday? That's a question I have already. So it began on a Friday. So does this suggest that whatever it is still happening? If it began on a Friday, it doesn't say it happened, which suggests it's already finished. It began. If something began, it suggests it's only beginning. It's still happening now. So whatever it is it still happening? That's another question I've got. So we know when it is happening, but, well, it's happening on a Friday, but is that in an afternoon? Is that on an evening? When exactly is this happening? Is it an evening? Is it an afternoon? Don't know yet. So it must be something unusual. That's something I know. That's a fact I know. How do I know? Well, because it's described as strange things often do. It began on a Friday, as strange things often do. So this is one of those strange things. And it began on a Friday. So there are 2 things I know. It began on a Friday and it's a strange thing. It's something unusual. We just don't know what it is. Who is it that's having the strange things happen to them? So it began on a Friday. Strange things often do. So who or what, I suppose I should have put, who or what is having these strange things happen to them? That's something I need to find out. That's something I'm inquiring about. That's something I'm intrigued and interested in finding out. And then finally, what other strange things have happened? So there must be other things, because it says it began on a Friday, as strange things often do. So there must have been other things plural, more than one of them. So very interesting that, to find out what other strange things might have happened. So you can see there, from one sentence, and a short sentence at that, it's only what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's only 10 words long. From those 10 words, I've already got so much information, but I've also, and more importantly, I've got so many questions, so many inferences that have started but not yet finished. So hopefully we'll get some answers soon. But that's the level of analysis. That's the level of detail I want you to be doing each time. Let's have a look at, oh, well, there's one more. I forgot about my one more. So what are the strange things that are happening frequently? So why, sorry, are strange things happening frequently? Why are all these strange things going on? We don't know where they're happening. We don't know why they're happening. We don't know what they even are. So it's really important at this point to remember that what we're trying to get you to be is a confident and fluent reader. But remember, a confident and fluent reader does not know everything straight away. Don't fall into the trap of thinking that you're not a confident and fluent reader because you don't have all the answers. You don't know what's happening and why. A confident and fluent reader doesn't know everything straight away. They have to acknowledge what they don't know. That means they have to recognize and admit and be confident and comfortable with what they don't know, but seek to find the answer. So it's fine to not know. You're meant to not know sometimes. What isn't okay is if you just go, oh, well, I don't know. You have to seek to find the answer. You have to do everything you can to try and find the answer to what you don't know. Okay, so this is the second sentence. This particular Friday turned out to be stranger than most, although it had started normally enough. So, looking at that and thinking again. This time, looking at and thinking about what we just did, I'd like you to now have a go at analysing that second sentence in the same way that I analysed the first one with you. So, write it out in your book and then have a go at analysing that sentence for me in as much detail as you can. What do we already know? What would you like to ask? What are you interested in finding out? What do we know? What do we not know? And what do we want to seek to find the answer to? Have a go. You should probably always have in your head of trying to get sort of at least 3 questions and 1 or 2 at least things that we already know. So have a go at that. When you've done that for the last time, you can start this video up again and I'll explain to you then the final task that I'd like you to have a go at. I'll speak to you again in a moment. Best of luck. I can't wait to see what you've written. Speak to you in a moment. Okay, welcome back. So, final thing then. You've now done one piece of analysis that we kind of did together as best we can in this online learning environment. You did a second one more independently, but it was a shorter one, and I tried to scaffold it a little bit. For the final task, though, you've got a long third sentence, a lot happening there in that final sentence of the paragraph. Elliot Hooper got up at 7:30 a.m. as normal, made his mum breakfast at 8:15 a.m. as normal, went to school at 8:55 a.m. as normal, and was in the headmaster's office by 9:30 a.m., which was, in fact, slightly later than normal. So you've got a lot to get your teeth in there. Your final task for your first Big Read session, remembering to get all this written in your home learning books or your Big Read books if you're at home, I'd like you, please, to have a go at analysing in as much detail as you can that final sentence. Get it fully written out, analyse it, edit it. Sorry, don't edit it, I mean annotate it, and then write down as much as you know already from that sentence, but also what things you would like to find out, what questions you have about that sentence, acknowledging that we don't know everything yet. Really important. Okay, I'll be back with you for a very short video for your English today, because like I say, we're starting the routine as we normally would. And at the start of any piece of new writing unit, as you know, the first task is a cold write. So I'll be back with you just with the few bits of details you need for English whenever you have finished your Big Read. And I'll be back then tomorrow with the rest of your learning for English and for Big Read. For now though, that's everything from me for Big Read. Best of luck. When you've finished, please remember to send those in to me. I'll be giving you quick bit of feedback and any support that you might need. Speak to you again soon. But for now, goodbye.